The stars looked different from Luna Station today, and Captain Jake Martinez knew why. The massive alien ship hung in space like a dark crystal mountain, its surface covered in patterns that seemed to move when nobody was looking directly at them. Jake had seen many alien vessels in his 20 years of service, but nothing quite like this Zephyrian bioship. It was alive in ways that made human technology look primitive and cold. Jake stood on the observation deck watching the alien craft through the thick windows. His crew moved around him with nervous energy, checking systems and double-checking protocols. Everyone knew this meeting was important. The Zephyrians had been silent for 3 months after first contact, studying humanity from a distance. Now, they had finally agreed to formal negotiations. That Ambassador Lisa Parker joined Jake at the window, her diplomatic uniform crisp and official. She carried a datapad filled with cultural notes and warnings. Lisa had spent weeks preparing for this moment, learning everything possible about Zephyrian customs. The most important rule was simple and absolute. Nobody could touch their queen. Ever. Remember, Jake, 7 feet minimum distance at all times, Lisa said quietly. Their queen is considered sacred. Even her own people cannot get close to her. If we break this rule, the negotiations will end immediately. Jake nodded, but kept watching the alien ship. Something about it made him uncomfortable, though he could not say what. The bioship pulsed with a faint light that followed no pattern. He could understand. It reminded him of a heartbeat, but one that belonged to something vast and ancient. Dr. Nathan Brooks walked up to join them, his medical scanner beeping softly. Nathan was young for a xenobiologist, barely 30, but he had studied alien physiology longer than anyone on the station. His specialty was emergency medicine across species lines. Jake hoped they would not need his skills today. The atmospheric readings are stable, Nathan reported. Their ship is maintaining perfect environmental controls. Whatever technology they use, it works better than our best systems. The communication panel chimed, and Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez's voice came through clearly. Captain, the Zephyrian shuttle is approaching Docking Bay 7. They will arrive in 10 minutes. Jake felt his stomach tighten. 10 minutes until first formal contact with a species that could change everything for humanity. The Zephyrians controlled advanced biotechnology that could solve food shortages on a dozen human colonies. In return, they wanted human manufacturing capabilities and industrial knowledge. It seemed like a fair trade, but Jake had learned that nothing in diplomacy was ever simple. The docking bay had been specially prepared for this meeting. Human engineers had installed force field generators to maintain the required distance between species. The Zephyrians had sent detailed specifications for the meeting chamber, including exact measurements and atmospheric requirements. Everything had to be perfect. Lisa checked her notes one more time. The Queen's name is Vexthara. She has ruled the Zephyrian Empire for over 200 years. Her translator is named Kethfer. He will handle most of the talking, but we should address our formal statements directly to her. Jake watched the alien shuttle dock with Luna Station. The craft was smaller than their bioship, but just as strange. Its surface rippled like water, adapting to the docking clamps with organic flexibility. Through the shuttle's transparent sections, he could see movement inside. The first Zephyrian to emerge was clearly a worker or soldier. It stood 6 feet tall with 4 arms and legs that bent in ways that looked wrong to human eyes. Its chitinous armor gleamed under the station lights, colored deep green with bronze highlights. The creature's compound eyes swept the docking bay, assessing everything with alien intelligence. More Zephyrians followed, each one unique in coloring and size. Their translator, Kethfor, was smaller than the others, with brighter colors and more delicate features. When he spoke, his voice came through the universal translators, as clear and precise. We greet the humans in the name of Queen Vexthara, ruler of the seven worlds, guardian of the ancient ways. She honors you with her presence." Then the queen herself appeared in the shuttle doorway. Jake had seen the briefing images, but they had not prepared him for the reality of Vexthara. She stood 8 feet tall, her chitinous armor darker than the others, almost black with silver veins running through it like lightning. Her forearms moved with graceful precision, and her compound eyes reflected the station lights like jewels. But it was her presence that struck Jake most powerfully. The queen carried herself with authority that needed no words or gestures. Every other Zephyrian in the docking bay immediately moved to maintain the proper distance from her. She was their center, their focus, their untouchable goddess. The procession moved slowly toward the prepared meeting chamber. The queen walked in the middle of a precise formation, her subjects maintaining exactly 7 feet of distance in all directions. No one came closer. No one touched her. Jake realized he had never seen anything so isolated and alone. The meeting chamber was perfect for its purpose. Force fields created invisible barriers that would prevent accidental contact while allowing normal conversation. The lighting had been adjusted to Zephyrian preferences, casting everything in a slightly blue tint. Human and alien seating had been arranged to maintain proper distances and show equal respect. Queen Vexthara entered the chamber with fluid grace, her compound eyes taking in every detail. She settled onto the raised platform designed for her use, and immediately her subjects arranged themselves in their proper positions around her. The 7-foot barrier remained absolute. Lisa began the formal introductions, following the diplomatic protocols exactly. She welcomed the Queen to Luna Station and expressed humanity's hope for peaceful cooperation. Kethver translated her words into the musical language of the Zephyrians, his voice rising and falling with complex tones. The Queen listened without reaction, her alien features impossible to read. When Lisa finished, Vexthara spoke for the first time. Her voice was deeper than her translators, with harmonics that seemed to resonate in Jake's bones. "The Zephyrian Empire acknowledges humanity's greeting. We come seeking mutual benefit through trade and knowledge exchange. Our biotechnology for your industrial capacity. Our organic sciences for your manufacturing processes." The negotiations began formally, with both sides presenting their initial offers. The Zephyrians wanted detailed specifications for human factory systems and computer networks. Humanity requested samples of their biological materials and growth techniques. Progress was slow, but steady. Jake noticed that the Queen seemed distant from the proceedings, almost bored. She spoke only when directly addressed, leaving most communication to Kethver. Her compound eyes wandered around the chamber, studying the human delegates with what might have been curiosity. Nathan sat quietly at the medical station, monitoring the environmental systems and watching for any signs of biological incompatibility. His scanner showed that both species were handling the shared atmosphere well. The force fields were working perfectly, maintaining the required distances without interfering with communication. Hours passed as lawyers and negotiators from both sides worked through technical details. The Queen remained motionless on her platform, surrounded by her protective bubble of empty space. Jake found himself watching her more than the negotiations, wondering what it must be like to live in such complete isolation. Then the gravity generator failed. The malfunction happened. Without warning, Luna Station's artificial gravity flickered and died in the meeting chamber, sending everything not secured floating toward the ceiling. Emergency power kicked in immediately, but the damage was already done. A massive support beam, loosened by the gravity failure, broke free from its mounting and crashed down toward the center of the room, toward Queen Vexthara. The beam struck her platform with tremendous force, pinning the Queen beneath its weight. Her chitinous armor cracked with sounds like breaking glass, and blue fluid began leaking from the fractures. The other Zephyrians shrieked in alarm, but could not approach their injured ruler. Their cultural programming held them frozen in place, maintaining the sacred distance even as their queen lay dying. Jake and his team stared in shock as the Zephyrian delegation fell into chaos. The queen was clearly badly hurt, but none of her own people could help her. The 7-foot barrier had become a death sentence. Dr. Nathan Brooks moved before his mind could stop him. The medical scanner in his hand clattered to the floor as he rushed forward, ignoring the shocked cries from both humans and aliens. His feet carried him across the chamber toward the injured queen, while everyone else stood frozen in disbelief. The Zephyrians let out a collective shriek of horror. Their musical voices rose in harmonics of outrage and terror as Nathan knelt beside Queen Vexthara. He could hear Lisa Parker shouting his name, her diplomatic training warring with her human instincts. Captain Martinez was yelling something about protocols, but Nathan blocked out all the noise. The Queen's compound eyes focused on him with what looked like surprise rather than anger. Up close, Nathan could see that her chitinous armor was more beautiful than he had imagined. The silver veins running through the dark material pulsed with faint light, like a circuit board made of living metal. But those same beautiful patterns were now cracked and bleeding. Nathan placed his hands directly on the Queen's injured form, feeling the alien texture of her exoskeleton. It was warm and smooth, nothing like the cold metal he had expected. Through the cracks in her armor, he could see the soft tissue underneath, pale and vulnerable. Blue blood seeped between his fingers as he examined her wounds. The Queen's breathing was wrong. Nathan could hear the wheeze and rattle of blocked air passages. Her respiratory spiracles, the small openings along her sides that allowed her to breathe, were clogged with debris from the collapsed beam. Without immediate help, she would suffocate. Nathan had studied Zephyrian physiology in theory, but this was his first chance to work with their biology directly. He used his fingers to carefully clear the blocked spiracles, removing chunks of metal and synthetic material. The Queen's breathing improved immediately, the desperate wheezing becoming more regular. The blue blood was harder to deal with. Zephyrian circulatory systems were more complex than human ones, with multiple hearts pumping fluid through their bodies at different pressures. Nathan applied pressure to the worst bleeding sites, using his knowledge of insectoid anatomy to find the major vessels. Queen Vexthara whispered something in her native language. The words were unlike anything Nathan had heard before, too formal and ancient for the translation computers to process. Her voice was weak but steady, and there was something in her tone that sounded almost grateful. The other Zephyrians had backed away to the far walls of the chamber, their antennae twitching with what appeared to be panic. Kethver, the translator, was making rapid clicking sounds that the computers rendered as untranslatable distress calls. Some of the larger warriors looked like they wanted to attack Nathan, but they seemed paralyzed by the magnitude of what they were witnessing. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez and her security team managed to lift the fallen beam using portable gravity manipulators. The massive piece of metal rose slowly, freeing the Queen completely. Nathan helped Vexthara sit up, supporting her weight as she regained her balance. She was heavier than she looked, her dense exoskeleton adding mass that his human arms could barely handle. The Queen stood slowly to her full 8-foot height, leaning slightly on Nathan for support. Her compound eyes looked down at him with an expression he could not read. For a moment, Nathan thought she might strike him down for his transgression. The violation of their most sacred law deserved death according to everything he had learned about Zephyrian culture. Instead, Queen Vexthara did something that shocked everyone in the chamber. She reached down with one of her 4 arms and gently touched Nathan's shoulder with her taloned hand. The gesture was deliberate and careful, mirroring his earlier contact with her. The touch lasted only a few seconds, but its meaning was clear. To everyone watching, the silence in the chamber was complete. Nathan could hear his own heartbeat and the soft hum of the life support systems. The Queen's touch felt strange on his shoulder, her talons sharp but controlled. Her hand was larger than his head, powerful enough to crush him easily, but her touch was gentle as a feather. Kethver finally found his voice, speaking in rapid Zephyrian before switching to human language. The Queen has acknowledged the humans. Service, this is unprecedented. This changes everything. The other Zephyrians began making new sounds, complex harmonies that the translators struggled to interpret. Some seemed to be prayers or chants, while others sounded like arguments. Nathan realized he had done more than save a life. He had shattered the fundamental structure of their society. Captain Martinez moved closer, his face pale with shock. Nathan, do you understand what you just did? You touched their queen. You broke their most sacred law. Nathan looked up at Queen Vexthara, who was still standing beside him. Her breathing was steady now, and the bleeding had mostly stopped. I saved her life, Captain. That's what doctors do. The Queen spoke again, her voice stronger than before. The human speaks truth. Life is sacred above all laws. This one acted with honor. She paused, looking at Nathan with those impossible compound eyes. What is your name, healer? Dr. Nathan Brooks, Your Majesty. Nathan was not sure how to address an alien queen, but formality seemed appropriate. Nathan Brooks, she repeated, the human syllables sounding strange in her alien voice. I am in your debt. You have given me life when my own people could not. The implications of her words rippled through the chamber. The Zephyrians began talking among themselves in their musical language, their voices rising and falling with complex emotions. Some sounded angry, others confused, and a few seemed almost excited. Lisa Parker stepped forward carefully, her diplomatic training taking over. Your Majesty, we deeply regret this incident. Dr. Brooks acted on medical instinct, not from any desire to offend your customs. Queen Vexthara looked at the ambassador with what might have been amusement. You apologize for saving my life? How strange your species is. She turned back to Nathan. Tell me, healer, why did you not hesitate? You knew our laws. You knew the consequences. Nathan thought about the question seriously. Because you were dying, Your Majesty. I'm a doctor. I took an oath to preserve life regardless of species or circumstances. Your laws didn't matter in that moment. Only your life mattered. The Queen was quiet for a long time, studying Nathan with those alien eyes. Finally, she spoke again. In 3,000 years of Zephyrian history, no one has touched a reigning queen and lived. Yet here you stand, unharmed and unrepentant. She looked around the chamber at her own people. Perhaps it is time to question why this law exists. Kethver stepped forward carefully, still maintaining the traditional distance from his queen. Your Majesty, the laws exist for protection. The ancient plague nearly destroyed our people. The isolation protocol saved the royal bloodline. The plague ended 2 millennia ago, Kethver. Yet we maintain isolation as if the threat still exists. The Queen's voice carried authority that brooked no argument. This human has shown that touch need not mean death. Perhaps we have been prisoners of our own fear. Nathan could see the conflict playing out among the Zephyrians. Their entire society was built around the untouchability of their rulers. If that could change, what else might follow? The younger members of the delegation seemed more accepting of what had happened, while the older ones appeared deeply disturbed. The Queen noticed the division among her people as well. We will not resolve this matter today, but neither will we ignore what has occurred. She looked at Nathan again. You have shown courage, healer. That is a rare quality in any species. Security Chief Rodriguez stepped forward. Your Majesty, our medical bay is available if you need additional treatment. Dr. Brooks can provide whatever care you require. The offer hung in the air like a challenge. For Nathan to continue treating the Queen would require more contact, more violation of their ancient taboos. Every Zephyrian in the chamber understood the implications. Queen Vexthara considered the offer carefully. Yes, I will accept your medical assistance. But first, I must speak with my delegation. She looked at her people with those compound eyes. What has happened here will be reported to the Empire. Let them judge whether their queen has been blessed or cursed by alien contact. The meeting was officially suspended while the queen received medical treatment. Nathan worked carefully, using portable scanners to check for internal injuries. Her exoskeleton was tougher than it looked, and most of the damage was superficial. The blue blood was already beginning to clot naturally. As Nathan worked, the Queen watched him with obvious curiosity. Your hands are so small and soft compared to ours. Yet they are skilled. How do you heal with such fragile tools? Practice and knowledge, Your Majesty. Human medicine relies on precision rather than strength. Nathan cleaned the last of her wounds and applied synthetic bandages that would work with her alien biology. You should heal completely in a few days. The Queen flexed her arms experimentally, testing her range of motion. You have my gratitude, Nathan Brooks. Whatever consequences follow from this day, you acted with honor. She paused. I hope your people understand the magnitude of what you have done. Nathan looked around the chamber at the mixed human and alien faces watching them. Some looked proud, others worried, and a few seemed terrified of what would come next. He had saved a life, but he had also changed the course of history between two species. The news traveled faster than light across both human and Zephyrian space networks. Within hours of the incident at Luna Station, every major colony and homeworld knew about Dr. Nathan Brooks and his unprecedented contact with Queen Vexthara. The reactions were as different as the species themselves. On Earth, Nathan was being called a hero. News broadcasts showed his image alongside headlines about courage and diplomatic breakthrough. Children in schools were learning his name as the man who dared to save an alien queen. The medical community praised his quick thinking and cross-species knowledge. Politicians spoke of new eras of cooperation and understanding. But in Zephyrian space, the response was far more complicated and dangerous. Commander Rick Stone stood in the communications center of Luna Station, his face grim as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. As head of human military liaison, Rick had the unhappy job of monitoring alien military movements. What he was seeing made his stomach tight with worry. Captain Martinez, we have a problem, Rick said, handing Jake a datapad filled with tactical displays. Half the Zephyrian fleet is moving toward our border systems. The other half appears to be positioning for some kind of internal conflict. Jake studied the information with growing concern. Zephyrian warships were biotechnology marvels, living vessels that could adapt and heal during battle. A single biocruiser could devastate a human colony. The thought of their entire fleet in motion was terrifying. What are their demands? Jake asked. That's where it gets complicated. The traditionalist faction wants Nathan's immediate execution for sacrilege. They're calling him a corrupter and a destroyer of sacred law. But the progressive faction seems to be protecting him, saying he acted with honor according to their ancient codes of life preservation. Rick pulled up another display showing Zephyrian communication intercepts. Their empire is splitting along generational lines. The older houses want to maintain the old ways, while younger Zephyrians are questioning why their leaders must live in isolation. Nathan's action has become a symbol for both sides. In her private chambers aboard the Zephyrian bioship, Queen Vexthara was dealing with the same divisions among her own people. The debate had been raging for hours, with her advisors split between outrage and cautious acceptance of what had occurred. High Commander Zixtar, an ancient warrior whose chitin had turned silver with age, spoke with barely controlled fury. Your Majesty, this human has violated the most fundamental law of our people. His execution is demanded by tradition and justice. To allow this transgression to stand unchanged will destroy the foundation of our civilization. But you, Thara, the Queen's young personal physician, argued differently. The law exists to protect life, not to prevent its preservation. This human saved our Queen when we could not. Should we punish such courage? Should we condemn someone who acted to preserve the most precious life in our empire? The Queen listened to both sides while examining her own feelings about Nathan's touch. For 300 years, she had lived in complete isolation, untouched by any living being. The weight of that loneliness had grown heavier with each passing decade. Nathan's hands on her injured form had been the first gentle contact she had experienced in centuries. Tell me, Ithara, the Queen said quietly, what does our medical knowledge say about prolonged isolation? What are its effects on our species? The young physician consulted her bioscanner before answering. Your Majesty, isolation stress has been documented to cause reproductive difficulties, immune system problems, and psychological instability. The royal bloodline has suffered from these issues for generations. High Commander Zixtar made a dismissive sound. Medical speculation cannot override 3 millennia of sacred law. The isolation protocols saved our people from the Great Plague. They must be maintained. Queen Vexthara stood slowly, her 8-foot frame commanding attention from everyone in the chamber. The plague ended 2,000 years ago, Zixtar. Yet we continue to live as if it threatens us still. Perhaps it is time to consider whether our cure has become a poison. The debate continued through the night, but the Queen had already made her decision. She requested a private communication link with Nathan, conducted through a specialized chamber that maintained physical separation while allowing conversation. The technology was ancient, designed for emergency contacts during plague times. Nathan entered the communication chamber with mixed feelings. He had spent the day dealing with reporters, politicians, and medical colleagues, all wanting to know about his experience with the alien queen. The attention made him uncomfortable. He was a doctor, not a hero or a diplomat. The Queen's image appeared on the chamber's main screen, larger than life and impossibly regal. Even through the electronic display, her presence was commanding. Dr. Nathan Brooks, I hope you are well. Your actions have created what your people call a stir. Your Majesty, I hope I haven't caused problems for you or your people. I only wanted to help. Nathan felt awkward talking to royalty, especially alien royalty, whose customs he had violated. The Queen's compound eyes seemed to study him through the screen. You have caused problems, healer, but perhaps there are problems that needed to surface. Tell me, what do you know of our history? Do you understand why our laws exist? Nathan thought carefully before answering. I know about the plague that nearly destroyed your people long ago. The isolation protocols were created to protect the royal bloodline from infection. But your Majesty, that was thousands of years ago. Medical science has advanced tremendously since then. Indeed it has, the Queen agreed. Yet we cling to old fears as if they were current dangers. I have been thinking about your touch, Nathan Brooks. It was the first contact with another living being that I have experienced in over 3 centuries. The admission shocked Nathan. He had known about the isolation protocols, but he had not truly understood their personal cost. Your Majesty, that's terrible. No one should have to live in such loneliness. The Queen was quiet for a moment before continuing. There is something else I must tell you, something that will explain why your action was even more significant than you realize. The isolation stress has affected more than just my mental state. It has made me sterile. Nathan's medical mind immediately grasped the implications. The stress hormones from prolonged isolation can disrupt reproductive cycles. In many species, it's a well-documented effect. My empire has been without an heir for 70 years. The traditionalists blame various factors, but I believe the true cause is the very law they seek to preserve. My body cannot function normally while imprisoned by fear of contact. The queen paused, and Nathan could see conflict in her alien. Features. Your willingness to touch me, to treat me as a living being rather than an untouchable icon, has affected me in ways I am still discovering. For the first time in decades, I feel hope that my condition might be reversible. Nathan understood what she was really asking. Your Majesty, if you're wondering whether medical intervention might help, the answer is probably yes. But it would require extensive physical examination and treatment. Under your current laws, that would be impossible. Unless those laws were changed, the Queen said quietly. But such a change would tear my empire apart. The traditionalists would never accept it. They would rather see the royal line end than allow our sacred customs to be violated. Dr. Helen Davis, the mission psychologist, had been analyzing the situation from her own perspective. She joined Nathan in preparing a detailed report on the cultural implications of what had occurred. Her conclusions were both hopeful and troubling. What we're seeing is a civilization at a crossroads, Helen explained to the human leadership team. The Zephyrians have reached a point where their survival mechanisms have become obstacles to survival. The Queen represents change and progress, but she's facing massive resistance from established power structures. Captain Martinez reviewed Helen's analysis with growing concern. So we're not just dealing with diplomatic fallout. We're looking at the potential collapse of their entire government, or its transformation, Helen corrected. Revolutionary change is never easy, but it can lead to stronger, more adaptive societies. The question is whether the Queen has enough support to survive the transition period. The answer came sooner than anyone expected. Reports from Zephyrian space indicated that several younger houses had declared their support for the Queen's new policies, whatever those might prove to be. At the same time, traditional houses were mobilizing their military forces and calling for her removal from power. Nathan found himself at the center of a storm he had never intended to create. Earth Command was pressuring him to stay away from further diplomatic contact, fearing that his presence would escalate the crisis. But messages from Queen Vestara suggested that his expertise might be crucial for resolving the conflict peacefully. The Queen's final transmission of the day was brief but significant. Dr. Nathan Brooks, I am returning to Zephyrian space to address my people directly. The crisis you have inadvertently triggered cannot be resolved through distant communication. But I want you to know that whatever happens, your courage has given me hope for the first time in centuries. She paused, and Nathan could see determination in her alien features. If the Zephyrian Empire fractured like crystal under pressure. Within days of Queen Vexthara's return to her homeworld, the ancient civilization split into warring factions that had been building tension for generations. Nathan watched the reports from Luna Station with growing horror, knowing that his simple act of medical assistance had lit the fuse of civil war. Traditional houses, led by High Commander Zixtar, declared the Queen unfit to rule. They claimed that her acceptance of Nathan's touch proved she had been corrupted by alien influence and was no longer worthy of the throne. Their bioships moved into defensive positions around the old capital world of Zefkor, establishing a blockade that cut off communication and supplies. Progressive houses rallied around the Queen and her promise of social reform. Younger Zephyrians, who had grown tired of rigid traditions, saw her as a symbol of hope and change. They established a new capital on the moon of Kefara, using its natural defenses and resource facilities to build a stronghold for the new order. Captain Martinez, called an emergency meeting in Luna Station's main conference room. The holographic displays showed Zephyrian fleet movements across dozens of star systems, with bioships positioning themselves for battles that could devastate entire worlds. Earth Command is getting nervous, Jake told his senior staff. They're worried that this civil war could spill over into human space. Our colonies near the border are reporting increased military activity and aggressive patrol patterns. Commander Rick Stone pulled up tactical analyses of Zephyrian military capabilities. Their bioships are living weapons that can adapt during combat. A single heavy cruiser could destroy one of our smaller colonies before we could mount an effective defense. If they decide we're responsible for this crisis, we could be looking at open warfare. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez had been monitoring alien communications traffic. There's something else, Captain. We're picking up transmissions suggesting that some traditionalist commanders want to capture Dr. Brooks and execute him publicly as an example. They believe his death would restore order to their empire. Nathan felt cold despite the station's comfortable temperature. He had become the focal point of an alien civil war, wanted as both a hero and a criminal, depending on which side was speaking. The weight of responsibility was crushing, but he knew he could not hide while an entire civilization tore itself apart. I need to go to them, Nathan said quietly. The Queen asked for my help, and this crisis won't end until the medical procedure is completed. Her sterility is the real issue here. If she can produce an heir, it will legitimize her rule and give the progressives something concrete to rally around. Dr. Helen Davis leaned forward with concern written across her face. Nathan, you're talking about traveling into the middle of a war zone. The traditionalists have put a price on your head, and even the progressives might not be able to protect you from assassination attempts. Then I'll have to take that risk, Nathan replied. I'm a doctor, Helen. I don't abandon my patients because the situation gets dangerous. The Queen needs medical assistance, and I'm probably the only human qualified to provide it. Captain Martinez studied Nathan's determined expression and sighed. Earth Command will never approve an official mission. The political risks are too high. But if you're serious about this, we might be able to arrange something unofficial. The plan that emerged was risky, but possible. Lieutenant Sam Johnson, the station's best pilot, volunteered to take Nathan into Zephyrian space using a small stealth ship designed for reconnaissance missions. They would avoid the main fleet concentrations and approach Kefara through asteroid fields and nebula clouds that would mask their signature. The ship is fast and nearly invisible to most sensors, Sam explained to Nathan as they prepared for departure. But if we're detected, we won't have enough firepower to fight our way out. This is strictly a stealth mission with no backup available. Nathan packed his medical equipment carefully, including specialized instruments designed for cross-species surgery. He had studied Zephyrian physiology extensively since the incident on Luna Station, preparing for the possibility that the Queen would need his help. The reproductive system of her species was complex, but the procedure she required was theoretically straightforward. The journey into whom? Zephyrian space took 3 days of careful navigation through hazardous regions of space. Sam proved to be an excellent pilot, guiding their small ship through asteroid fields and plasma storms that would have destroyed larger vessels. They avoided detection by both traditionalist and progressive patrol ships, arriving at Kefara without incident. The moon itself was a fortress built into solid rock, with defensive installations that could hold off a major fleet. The Queen's bioship was docked at the main facility, its organic hull gleaming under the light of the system's twin stars. As their stealth ship approached the landing bay, Nathan felt his heart pounding with nervous anticipation. Queen Vexthara met them personally at the airlock, accompanied by a small guard of progressive warriors. She looked different than she had on Luna Station, her bearing more confident and determined. The events of recent weeks had transformed her from an isolated ruler into a revolutionary leader. "Dr. Nathan Brooks, you honor us with your presence," the Queen said formally. "Your arrival gives hope to all who seek positive change for our people." Nathan was struck again by her imposing presence, but now he also saw the loneliness and isolation that had shaped her life. "Your Majesty, I came as soon as I could. Captain Johnson and I had to avoid quite a few patrol ships on the way here." The Queen turned to acknowledge Sam with a graceful nod. "Captain Johnson, your courage in bringing the healer safely to us will be remembered. Both your species have shown remarkable bravery in support of our cause." They were escorted to the Queen's private medical facility, a chamber that had been specially prepared for the procedure Nathan would perform. The room was a blend of human and Zephyrian technology, with monitoring equipment that could track both species' biological functions. Dr. Euthara, the Queen's personal physician, greeted Nathan with obvious relief. "Dr. Brooks." The combat arena on Kefara had been carved from solid rock generations ago, designed for ceremonial battles that would determine the fate of the Zephyrian Empire. Nathan stood at the edge of the circular fighting space, trying to calm his nerves, as representatives from dozens of alien houses filed into the observation galleries. The weight of history pressed down on him like a physical force. 3 days of intensive training had taught Nathan more about Zephyrian anatomy than years of theoretical study. Dr. Euthara had shown him the locations of major nerve clusters, the weak points in their chitinous armor, and the pressure points that could disable even the largest warrior. Queen Vexthara herself had demonstrated combat techniques, moving with deadly grace despite her recent medical treatment. "Remember, Nathan," the Queen said quietly as they waited for the challenge to begin, "Zixtar will lie on strength, traditional fighting methods. He has trained for 3 centuries in the old ways, but you have knowledge he cannot comprehend. Use that advantage." Nathan nodded, checking the simple weapons he had been allowed: a pair of metal rods that could be used for striking or leverage, and a small knife designed for precision rather than power. Against High Commander Zixtar's natural weapons and armor, they seemed pathetically inadequate. The traditionalist champion entered the arena with ceremonial fanfare. Zixtar stood 9 feet tall, his silver-streaked chitin gleaming under the arena lights. His forearms ended in razor-sharp talons that could slice through metal, and his compound eyes burned with righteous fury. He had fought dozens of similar battles over his long career and never lost. "Human," Zixtar's voice boomed through the arena's acoustics. "You have corrupted our queen and violated our most sacred laws. Today you will pay for your crimes with your life." Nathan took a deep breath and stepped into the center of the arena. "I saved your queen's life when nobody else could. If that's a crime, then I'm guilty as charged." The formal challenge began with ancient words spoken in the musical Zephyrian language. Representatives from both factions watched intently as the ritual unfolded, knowing that the outcome would determine their civilization's future. Progressive houses had staked everything on Nathan's impossible victory, while traditionalists waited confidently for his destruction. The combat began without warning. Zixtar moved with surprising speed for his size, his forearms striking out in coordinated attacks designed to overwhelm human reflexes. Nathan barely managed to dodge the first assault, rolling sideways as talons whistled through the air where his head had been. The crowd roared approval as the alien warrior pressed his advantage, forcing Nathan to retreat around the arena's perimeter. Each swing of Zixtar's arms could have killed a human instantly, and his chitinous armor seemed impervious to conventional attacks. It looked like the fight would be over in seconds, but Nathan had not spent 3 days learning Zephyrian anatomy. For nothing. As Zixtar lunged forward with another crushing attack, Nathan slipped between his arms and struck with surgical precision at a nerve cluster located behind the warrior's left shoulder. The metal rod hit exactly the right spot, causing Zixtar's entire left side to go numb. The alien commander staggered, his compound eyes widening with shock. In 3 centuries of combat, no opponent had ever found that particular weakness. Nathan pressed his attack, using his smaller size and human agility to stay inside. Zixtar's reach, where the larger warrior's advantages were minimized. Impossible. Zixtar snarled, swinging wildly with his remaining functional arms. No alien could know our secret vulnerabilities. Nathan ducked under a vicious swipe and struck again, this time hitting a pressure point that controlled Zixtar's breathing. The alien warrior's respiratory spiracles began to close involuntarily, reducing his oxygen intake and slowing his movements. I'm a doctor. I know biology, including yours. The tide of battle began to shift as Nathan's knowledge proved more effective than brute force. Every strike was calculated to exploit specific weaknesses in Zephyrian physiology. He avoided the armored sections of Zixtar's body, targeting soft joints and nerve clusters that could disable without necessarily killing. Queen Vexthara watched from the royal gallery with growing amazement. She had hoped Nathan's medical knowledge might give him a chance, but his performance exceeded her wildest expectations. He was fighting like a surgeon, each move precise and purposeful. Zixtar grew desperate as his body began to betray him. The nerve strikes were cumulative, building up damage that his natural healing could not overcome quickly enough. His movements became sluggish and uncoordinated as Nathan continued to exploit his anatomical knowledge. You fight without honor, the alien commander gasped, his breathing labored from the pressure point attacks. A true warrior relies on strength and skill, not trickery. Nathan avoided another clumsy swing and positioned himself for what he hoped would be the finishing move. I fight to win, Commander. Sometimes that requires intelligence instead of just muscle. A final exchange happened almost too quickly for the crowd to follow. Zixtar made one last desperate charge, his remaining functional arms reaching out to crush the human who had humiliated him. Nathan waited until the last possible second, then dropped low and struck upward with both metal rods at a specific point where the warrior's chest armor met his neck. The blow hit a major nerve junction that controlled Zixtar's motor functions. The alien commander froze in place, his body paralyzed by the precise neural disruption. He remained conscious and aware, but completely unable to move. Nathan had found the organic equivalent of an off switch. The arena fell silent as the impossible became reality. High Commander Zixtar, champion of the traditionalist cause and veteran of 100 battles, lay helpless before a human doctor who weighed half what he did and possessed no natural weapons. The defeat was total and undeniable. Nathan stood over his fallen opponent, breathing heavily from exertion and adrenaline. Commander, you're not seriously injured. The paralysis will wear off in a few hours, but the fight is over. Queen Vexthara rose from her seat in the royal gallery, her voice carrying clearly through the arena. The challenge has been decided. The human Nathan Brooks, champion of the progressive cause, has defeated the traditionalist champion in honorable combat. The old ways are ended. The time of change has begun. The political consequences were immediate and far-reaching. Traditional houses, their champion defeated and their cause discredited, began declaring their allegiance to the Queen. Progressive houses celebrated openly, their faith in reform validated by Nathan's impossible victory. The civil war that had threatened to destroy the Zephyrian Empire ended not with massive battles, but with a single combat that proved knowledge could triumph over tradition. In the days that followed, Queen Vexthara began the careful work of transforming her society. The touch taboo was officially abolished, replaced with new customs that honored their history while embracing necessary change. She appeared in public without the 7-foot barrier, allowing her subjects to approach and even touch her during formal ceremonies. The medical procedure Nathan had performed proved completely successful. Within weeks, the Queen announced her pregnancy, the first royal heir in over a century. The news was celebrated throughout progressive space as proof that their new ways were blessed by fortune. Even former traditionalists began to accept that change might be necessary for survival. Nathan prepared to return to human space, his mission completed beyond all expectations. The Queen insisted on a formal farewell ceremony, attended by representatives from across the Zephyrian Empire. The transformation in their society was already visible, with younger and older generations working together in ways that had been impossible under the old system. "Dr. Nathan Brooks," the Queen announced before the assembled crowd, "you came to our empire as a healer and became our teacher. You showed us that courage and knowledge could overcome fear and tradition. In recognition of your service, I present you with the first ever Order of the Touched Hand, created to honor those who dare to reach across the barriers that divide us." The medal was a work of art, crafted from the same biometal as Zephyrian, ships and formed into the shape of a human hand touching an alien one. Nathan accepted it with deep emotion, knowing that he was holding a symbol of cooperation between species. "Your Majesty, I only did what any doctor would do. I helped someone who needed medical attention. Everything else grew from that simple act." The Queen stepped forward and gently placed one of her 4 hands on Nathan's shoulder, just as she had done after their first contact on Luna Station. "And that is why your action was so powerful, Nathan Brooks. You saw not an alien queen bound by ancient taboos, but a person in need of help. That vision has changed our entire civilization." The ceremony concluded with Queen Vexthara announcing the name she had chosen for her unborn child. "In honor of the human who saved not just my life, but the future of our people, my daughter will be called Nathara. She will grow up in a world where touch and contact are signs of affection rather than forbidden acts. She will know that barriers between peoples exist only in our minds." Nathan returned to Luna Station as a hero, but more importantly, as a bridge between species. The Zephyrian Empire became humanity's.